Welcome to Practically. Sorry, I couldn't maintain.
Oh, I thought you were just gonna come with our new like intro music on the fly. That would have been pretty cool.
All right, well,
Next time.
there's always next time.
But hey everyone, what's going on? Holy cow! It's been a long time. It's been like 3 or 4 weeks since we actually recorded a live show. So for everybody tuning in, thank you for tuning in. I greatly appreciate it. I'm number one, happy to be back, excited to be back, because a whole bunch of changes in the show that we're going to jump into. Obviously, we have these two fine young gentlemen here with me that we're going to be discussing about why they're here. You know, who am I? Why am I here? We're going to answer that question.
Why are we here?
Yeah, on tonight's show. But for anybody out there that's new, what's going on? This is Practically Tactical. This is our live show streaming to you right here on this beautiful box called YouTube. But you can actually catch all of our shows on iTunes in a podcast format. We're part of the Firearms Radio Network. So you can listen to this show and all the other previous shows and other shows by visiting firearmsradio.tv. So for everybody out there that's in chat, if you guys got any questions about anything that we discussed tonight, put them in the chat. I'll be happy to answer those as we go through the show. And as always, if you guys click that like button if you like what you're hearing and listening and watching to, I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you know any other fellow gun enthusiasts, share this with them. I'd greatly appreciate it. But let's go ahead and jump into the show here. Welcome to Practically Tactical, brought to you by the Firearms Radio Network. Practically Tactical Show is a show where critical thinking meets everyday carry. The show features a roundtable discussion on mindset, concealed carry, training, and more, and 1911 toys. He just can't put it down. The guy buys a 1911 and just plays with it all day.
Put down the gun.
God's gun.
That's right. Roundtable discussion on mindset, concealed carry, training, and more with some of the best firearms instructors, shooters, and figures in the firearms industry. For more information on the show and to view our show notes, please visit new website here, practicallytactical.com/092. One quick note about that. Practac Podcast and Practically Tactical, we've had two websites. We're now in the midst of combining them. So this episode will probably post on practacpodcast.com, but in the future we're combining the websites so that way you can have all the podcast show notes on one website along with all the other articles and a whole bunch of other stuff that we're going to talk about in tonight's show. So be sure to be on the lookout for the new website and stuff. Also, while you're checking out the show notes, please be sure to do all of your Amazon shopping with our Amazon affiliate link. A small portion of your sale goes to supporting all the great shows here on the Firearms Radio Network. You can do that by clicking on the Amazon banner on our website or by visiting practicallytactical.com/Amazon. That'll redirect you to Amazon, and then a portion of your purchases will help support the Firearms Radio Network. So on this episode, we're going to be discussing the revamped Practically Tactical with two new co-hosts, full-time co-hosts. We're going to be discussing our histories and what's changed for us in the last year, because I think a bunch of us have some really interesting viewpoints we want to discuss, and I think there's just been a whole lot of changes in our mindsets and how we are approaching the show as well. So check out the show notes. I'm going to have links to all these guys in the show notes, and for everybody that's on podcast that's listening, if you didn't catch it on social media, we have two new full-time co-hosts joining the show. We have Mr. Jeff Bluvman from Arm Dynamics joining the show full-time. Thank you, sir. Thank you for joining me on this endeavor and seeing where this boat goes.
Oh, hell yeah.
That's allowable. That's allowable.
Nice.
Oh, really?
That's allowable. So you're still 0 out of 5. So.
Sweet. I don't want to write any letters.
Right.
We'll tell them about that later.
Yeah. And then also, of course, as by no surprise, my good friend, my training buddy, Mr. Jesse Gullickson of 4C Tactical, is also joining the show full-time. What's going on, man?
What's happening? No, glad to be a part of this. I think we're really going to, be able to change some minds out there, because I've definitely had my mind change, as we'll talk about here in a little bit, and anything we can do to help better our armed Americans out there.
Yeah, so we're going to be jumping into that. But real quick here before we talk about a whole lot of incredibly new things and big things that are coming with Practically Tactical, I want to mention if you guys need ammo out there, I can get you guys a good ammo. at a great price. Go to GreatLakesAmmo.com. Use code PRACTAC10. Get 10% off your order. So right now that puts a case of 9mm at about, I think, $188 or something like that. So it's incredibly cheap and it's good ammo. Go to GreatLakesAmmo.com and use code PRACTAC10. They, of course, have other ammo calibers as well, so go check that out. Also, moving into kind of our main segment here, all three of us, and we're going to get into this more later here, come take a class with us because all of us are going to be at the Sentinel Concepts Low-Light Handgun and Low-Light Carbine class October 23rd and 24th at Alliance, Ohio. It's going to be a great time. I think we're going to jump into this because we got to convert Jeff into a weapon-mounted light. Jeff is not on board that yet.
What?
Right?
Me?
Yes.
I carried a weapon-mounted light for a long time. I mean, I believe that they are. Are you asking me like were you just kind of picking on me, or do you want me to actually answer that?
No, we're gonna convert you. I'm saying we're gonna convert you into doing it all the time. But we'll jump on that a little more here again. But join us for a class. Links are in the show notes as well. Sorry, guys. There's a whole bunch of show notes here before we get into the show. I apologize. There's just so many new things. The next thing would be we're trying to actually put together a listener get-together in near Alliance. We're going to be in Alliance, Ohio, the week of that class. So if you guys are in or around Ohio or want to drive all the way to Alliance, Ohio, myself, Jesse, and Jeff, and maybe some other people, you never know, will actually be there, and we're trying to put together a listener get-together. So we'll get together, have a few beverages, talk about some stuff, have a good time, hang out, and then part ways. Be sure to check out all of our social media. Again, all the links are in the show notes, and to get together on that. I'm going to skip the rest of the stuff and come back because I'm talking way too much for how much stuff we have going on. There's just there's 8 million show notes. But yeah, so we have Jeff and Jesse join the show full time here. And number one, that is great because I don't have to do everything now, which is great. But also, these two fine gentlemen, I think we're all on the same wavelength. We're all on the same kind of plan together on this crazy boat ride, and that's why I wanted to bring them on board. Obviously, I train a lot with Jesse. We're same wavelength, and it's good to have a person that has the same mentality, thinks the same way, or is a problem solver like yourself. And then I wanted to bring on Jeff as well. Number one, Jeff was the first guest on the show. He's came on a ton of times. Incredibly funny, but also incredibly smart. And when a guy has hair like that, what can you do?
Yeah, you don't argue with hair. You just.
That's right.
You just.
You can't.
You can't. So
what we kind of want to do on this episode is talk about a lot of big things we have coming up. There's a ton of stuff we have coming up, but we also want to, a lot of the older episodes, some of them, thankfully, you can't listen to unless you actually go to the website. So I want to give a little bit of history, especially on Jeff and Jesse, because some of you guys might not know their histories and kind of, how they arrived at where they are. So I want to do that. We're going to talk about the goals of the show. It's changing up a little bit, and then we kind of talk about the changes over the past year. And kind of, I want to somehow incorporate the news story of today into the show. But let's go ahead and jump into this first here of goals of the show. Obviously, them joining brings a little bit of changes. We'll still have special guests. Some episodes we won't have special guests. Some episodes we want to incorporate our listeners into the show itself, because I think. Jeff, let's go back to the EDC series we did, Jeff, and Jesse was actually on that show, on a different show as, a guest on the show, going over his EDC. Shows like that to where we can incorporate the listeners into where they can provide us information, we can provide direct feedback to them, is really where we want to push that show towards, right?
Yes, and that's why, honestly, I mean, first of all, I signed on because, regardless of what I say to you in private, I like you. And Jesse and I are establishing a wonderful relationship.
Oh, jeez.
Jeez, yeah, sorry. I had coffee at 8 o'clock, so I'm really screwed. So are the listeners. But, I really appreciate how you've approached the whole spreading. Really, I mean, I hate to use this expression, but it's accurate, spreading awareness about issues that are concerning people that carry weapons to protect themselves and their loved ones. And I think that really there are few more noble things that we can do, especially taking. Obviously, there's laughs and fun stuff like that, because I think that humor, especially when we're talking about something as grave as this, is an absolute necessity, because otherwise it's just like, oh my God, doom and gloom, and then nobody likes that. But the more aware that we can make people, and the more information that we can get into the heads of anybody listening to this show, you're already ahead of the curve, because you've said, hey, first of all, you hopefully enjoy watching the show, but there's probably some stuff that I can learn. And that is where we all have to start at. And there's stuff that we're constantly learning. I'm constantly learning. I feel very privileged to oftentimes be invited to take classes and stuff, and under really good people, because I know that I don't know it all. And once you think that you know it all, well, that's when, in my opinion, we die. Whether it's, maybe not physically, but spiritually die. This is a constant evolution and a wonderful journey that we're on as what I call martial students. So that's kind of a little thing.
A little thing.
Yeah.
Oh God, guys, it's gonna be a fun ride, man. I tell you what. I swear to God, man. I swear to God. What's the line, Jesse?
I swear to God, it is.
Well, and kind of, in the EDC series, somebody's out in chat already. The EDC series will be back, so be on the lookout for that. And some of you people that were on the show before, I'm going to email you directly back, because I'm working on something special, but we'll talk about more of that later. But yeah, we want to take the show and make it listener-based. So we have a couple things that we're launching. We're launching a Patreon type of deal. I know there's several shows on the Firearms Internet that have those. We actually finally have ours launched. So patreon.com/practicallytactical for those watching on YouTube. The link is down below. So the goal of the show, and you don't have to be a Patreon supporter by any means to be a part of the show. Listen, we really want to incorporate our listeners into, Jesse, go back, just a year, let's say, Jesse. I mean, if we could have access to what we have access now, and the amount of people we've been fortunate enough just to ask questions to, how much have we learned just by asking questions to Steve or Trek or Keith or a bunch of other great Jeff? Asking those questions, man, is literally 95% of the battle, isn't it?
No, I think the biggest thing is you just don't. You don't know what you don't know. So it's like we all start on the same path. It's like you decide you want to take self-defense on yourself and you want to take it seriously. You go buy this firearm, and obviously with that, comes knowledge and training. Everything you do, you're taught in some way. So it's like we try to seek it out on our own. So, today we have what's awesome is the internet. But the problem is it's good and bad. There's, again, tons of reputable information out there and tons of bad information out there. And I feel like, even a year ago I had access to kind of the same things I have now. I just wasn't going about solving the problem the right way because I just didn't know how. So, it took getting through reputable people to say, hey, it's this easy, and that's the biggest thing is we all get into those questions of like, it all starts with like, okay, I need a holster for this gun, and you start looking into holsters and it leads you here. And again, the first person you kind of see that tells you something that seems kind of credible in your mind is kind of who you latch onto. And that can be a problem, I mean, obviously I'm not going to throw names out there, but I latched onto people that were kind of putting out not the best information at the time, so it took a lot longer on my journey than I feel like it should have because, in just the last, let's say summer, how much have we learned? And it's like, when you really start breaking it down to, again, its simplest form and asking the right questions and knowing how to go about those questions, even still to this day, it's like I'll get to a class and be like, why didn't I think of that? Like, that's the simplest thing in the world. I've done it so many times, yet I've never once thought about it, and I think that's really the difference, and where we kind of want to help people out is because we've had so many of these light bulb moments that it's like, man, the internet's so wrong on that, and it's like, but again, you have all these people that you think are credible are out there saying this stuff, and I think, again, the big thing for me has been able to put it to the test, but I understand that not everybody has those opportunities and those, you know, those chances. So I just want to be able to bring it in kind of a light that everyone can, you know, see that, hey, this is the real deal. You know, you can get it from someone I hope you feel is a, you know, just a regular guy like you, because, you know, that's what I am. It's just a, yeah.
And again, that's what we want. So we'll be doing the Patreon thing. We'll be doing some exclusive stuff on there. I mean, you guys go check that out. We have it to where if Jeff cusses 5 times in an episode, he'll personally write you a letter. We have that in there. We're actually be doing videos only for Patreon. We're going to be doing patches, and we got all the stuff on there. So again, check out the Patreon. But again, by no means is that the only way you can get a hold of us. Obviously, you know, if you have some sort of, you know, I've had a lot. Actually, while we're on, we were, I don't know if we were in Michigan or if we were in Ohio. A listener messaged me on Facebook talking about a literal, almost could have been potential incident to where he didn't know what to do. And thankfully, we actually covered that when Steve was on the show. But if there's those type of questions you guys have, whether it be situational, even gun-related, whatever it is, we want you guys to send us that, because we will absolutely incorporate that in the show, because if there's an issue that our listeners want to have discussed, we want to cover that on the show. Obviously, before it's always been, you know, me just getting a special guest, and we'll talk about, you know, what the special guest might be, his, you know, forte is, or he's really involved in training on that type of thing. But if there's something that our listeners want, we want that on the show. That's what we want to talk about. You know, for example, you know, shotguns. Me and Jesse really aren't too big into shotguns, but Jeff is. So to some people, a shotgun, especially the state where they live, a shotgun could be maybe a better potential home defense than a handgun. I'm just throwing out ideas, but what we really want from you guys is information, feedback on the show, and, you know, whatever is important to you guys, let us know so we can talk about it. Did I cover all that there? Did I miss anything there?
Yeah, I think so, and you started to talk just a little bit about the Patreon thing. I'm very, very excited about that, not only because we'll be getting some money, but I love, you know, I'm the dude that puts in, and so are my friends, the DVD just to watch the bonus features, you know? Like, I just think that people love that, and the outtakes, and, you know, when you see, like, you know, what's his name, Will Ferrell at the end of one of his movies, all the outtakes, like that stuff's hysterical, and that's one of the many benefits that people will have, and the exclusivity of those videos. I have some ideas of videos that I want to make, instructional videos to put up as a thank you for people, you know, getting our show to the next level. So people get some free training and all that kind of stuff. But I'm sure that we'll go over that more as this show goes on. But that's really cool. That's really exciting to me.
Yeah, we have all sorts of swag in there. Jesse has it where you can get a free holster in there. There's a ton of stuff. We'll come back to the Patreon and spend a couple minutes on that.
Okay.
But I want to jump into the history, and I think that's really pertinent to especially you two guys, because again, Jeff was, for those who don't know, was the very first guys, like episode 1. Like, actually, would it be in a couple weeks? It'll be our 2-year anniversary of the show. Jeff was the very first guest. And I don't know, you must have thought, and that was when Matt was on the show. For a lot of listeners, they don't even know about Matt. Matt was on the show from Walker Armory, and you must have thought like we were just these two, like, nerds or something. I don't know. Like, some random dude hits you up on YouTube, be like, "Hey man, you want to come on my show?"
You know, the funny thing is, and I'm kind of guilty of this. You know, I don't read a lot of the stuff that I get, which is just, I don't know what that. But I read that, and I was like, for some reason, I was like, oh, okay. And then I was talking to a buddy of mine, and we were together to kind of looking at stuff, and I said, oh, I'm going to be on this show. So he said, well, what is it? I was like, that's a good question. And so I looked it up, and, you know, you had, like, I think 70 views or something, and I was like, oh, no, what did I get myself into? And lo and behold, it's blown up into this and evolved into this beautiful, you know, thing, which has had some world-class guests on it. And we've got so many more coming, which is very exciting. So that's what I was thinking at the time. But boy, am I glad that I did it, because it's really been a fun ride.
It has. But let's start with your history real quick, Jeff, and then we'll go to Jesse's history. So Jeff, let's let's rewind this back. So before, where did you grow up at? What area were you raised in? And kind of walk us through baby step us through kind of this whole firearms journey.
Well, where do I begin? I'm just kidding. I'll give you the quick and dirty rundown as far as like where I grew up, so I don't bore people to tears. But was born and raised in Manhattan, New York. Raised there until I was 6 years old. At that point, my family moved to the suburbs of Philly. For as long, there's actually some funny stories in here, I think. For as long as I can remember, guns have just been a fascination and a passion for me. In fact, my mother told me the other day that like she, forgive me if I said this before, but she got like called in for a conference call when I was I was at the 92nd Street Y in New York in preschool, and they were like, Mrs. Bluvman, we need to talk with you. So she goes in for this conference, and well, lo and behold, the teacher's like, yes, we're very concerned because everything Jeffrey touches, he turns into a gun, whether it's a construct store or Lincoln Logs. I'm dating myself with constructs. I don't know. And Legos and, silly putty. And so my mother was like, well, is he being like threatening or menacing or hurting the other kids? And they were like, oh, no. And so that was like, okay, meeting adjourned. You couldn't do that now. People get suspended for making
geez.
But I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to go, which is just a shame. But yeah, I mean, raised around guns. My father, in fact, for all the parents out there, what I would recommend is really what my father did as far as having kids around guns, which was my father, and obviously this takes some amount of respect of the tool from the child. He said, look, anytime you want to see the guns, just let me know. But if you ever go looking for them and stuff like that, he basically demystified it. Because he said, these guns are totally cool, but I want to be here when you want to see them. And you know what? I never broke that because I didn't feel that urge. So that's kind of just like I think a tip that I would suggest any parent out there would do is just make it very clear that guns are fine. But you want to be there, and they can see them whenever they want, and never say, I mean, like unless you're like driving to, about to go to the baseball game, and the 3-year-old says, I want to see the gun or whatever the heck. See, I don't have to cuss. But anyway, getting back to that, I've been doing martial arts for the better half of about 25 years. Big proponent of them, both for self-discipline, for respect of others and oneself, but also physical fitness, and of course there's the self-defense aspect of that. And I find that firearms are part of the martial arts. Like, I mean, guns, when they were introduced in the 1600s and stuff, I'm sure that, when they had like matchlocks and stuff like that, sure, that wasn't the most battlefield wonderful weapon, effective weapon, but it scared people. And if they had AK-47s and AR-15s, they would have had those, and that would have been part of the practice of the martial arts at that given time. So I think that they just kind of go hand in hand. So one of the things that I want to harp on is getting for all of the people watching, and I just think it's a wonderful life study. And you'll be honestly a better person for having done it, because a lot of what we do with firearms, as my buddy Sean Lupka, Anti-Fragile Training, check him out, great dude, is like we go to a gun class and it's like there's no touching. You don't touch other people. So that's one of the brilliant things about, we'll say, like Craig Douglas.
I don't know. When was the last time you were at Steve's class?
Oh, that's more like groping. Or heavy petting.
I don't know. Jesse was crying every night.
Right. Well, that's like heavy petting, which I love that expression. But
if it's just regular petting from Steve, it's heavy petting, just because he's such a big guy.
So it's like me, Steve, me, brain. But yeah. So the martial arts, very good. I've had the privilege of studying under a lot of different people in the private sector. For firearms training, and been mentored by some great people. Paul Gomez was my late mentor, and love that guy. There's a couple people currently, one of whom will remain nameless, who's kind of bringing me to the light, so to speak. And again, I think it's an ever evolving journey. But now that I'm going to be one of the co-hosts on the show, I'm really looking forward to helping to spread some of what I've learned over the years, and that's pretty much where I'm at. Does that cover it, you think?
Yeah. Well, and you've taken a lot of training, right, Jeff?
Yeah, I've got thousands and thousands of, I don't even know how many thousands of hours I've got now, and that's not really including the martial arts type training, which, it's all mastery of yourself, and that's one of the. I find that, like, I would challenge people to look at it like this. Obviously there's the self-defense aspect of shooting, but there is this whole Zen part of shooting that I never really recognized until I just kind of recognized it, which is that, you're so, it's one of the few, like, I'm reading all these self-help books and all these books about meditation right now and creative visualization and stuff like that, which are very interesting. And
Jesse reads a lot of those books too.
Do you, Jesse?
Sure, sometimes.
I thought he was.
I'm more of an audio book type guy.
Okay.
Yeah, I audible those books. We won't say I read, but yeah.
Don't get me wrong. They put, I fall asleep when I read, but whatever. That's why I don't do it behind the wheel. Think about that. But and there's this whole entire thing about, like, staying present, staying in the moment, and I find that shooting and martial arts are one of the few activities that can really force me to be in the moment. I can't worry about the next shot. I can't worry about the shot that I just fired. All my focus is on my sights, on my trigger, and on this shot. And it's like, it forces you into the present. So maybe next time as a viewer you're out there shooting, really kind of think about that, and it's this wonderful experience. I don't know, for me it was kind of like when I crossed into that whole thing, I became much more in tune and aware of the gun. And the other thing that made me more aware of that was getting into, like, precision rifle shooting, where everything matters, consistency with cheek well, consistency with grip placement, how much pressure your support hand has on the gun. It's just this fascinating study. So, as a viewer, I would say take it as far as you want, and the further that you go on the journey, it's just a beautiful thing. And I don't mind getting spiritual on that because I believe that. I'm not selling anybody anything that I don't truly believe. So.
Okay. No, I think you're definitely right on the living in the moment. However, I tend to get angry if I don't do good in that moment and kick my Glock mags, but that's another story.
That is the discipline, right? But that's the discipline, and we'll work on that in Ohio, because that's, and not to cut you off, but to cut you off, when I see a student going like, you got the guy who goes like this, bang, and they go, I'm exaggerating, and I go, what's with the head shake? And they're like, and I'm like, can you do anything about it now? Can you ever take that bullet back? No, so focus on this one. And slowly they do that less and less and less. Can't take it back, so focus on that. And I'll be your, like, shooting psychologist.
I might need that. But
little guy? Don't worry about that little guy.
But I am very good at punting Glock mags. I have it on video. I can kick a Glock mag like 50 yards. It's pretty legit. But anyways, moving on. Let's talk about Jesse. So what's kind of, and for those that don't know, Jesse owns 4C Tactical, and how we met was I hit him up. I was like, hey, I found out you're local to me. Would it be cool if I came down and did some videos, reviewed your holster, and then we're pretty much brothers since then. Yeah, like we're brothers from a different mother.
Yeah, I would agree. I guess starting back, I grew up in Rockford, Illinois. Those that don't know, it's a little bit outside of Chicago.
It's the ritzy area of Chicago, isn't it?
I wouldn't say that. I would not say that. I had my mom's side who, like Christian, super God-fearing, came from the South, big into guns. That was, my grandpa has an entire room devoted in his house to guns. To my dad's side, who really just could care less, they just never really into guns or anything like that. So, I grew up, my dad never really shooting much. I think he owned a Ruger P89 when I was about like 16, and kept it locked up and somewhere in their room, who knows. Again, never really went looking for it. But I did have my grandpa who, I had BB guns at his house growing up. And when I turned 10, he bought me just a regular 22, like semi-auto. I actually still have it to this day. And yeah, I don't even know the brand on it. That's how old this rifle is. But I think it's just like a Sears model or something. But and that's that was it for me on guns until I pretty much joined the military. So, right out of high school, I was kind of hanging around just the wrong group of kids, I would say, not a good bunch. I could see kind of where life was going to be heading for me. So I decided to join the military. I had an uncle that was in the Army as well, so I kind of talked to him about it. But yeah, he was like, I want to say something medical. I don't even really remember his MOS, but so he kind of touched base on it. And yeah, at the time, I was kind of like your normal kid. I was big into the SOCOM games and the Splinter Cells. So I was like, man, I want to be like a Navy SEAL. That's what I want to do. So I went down to the recruiting office, and he's like, well, you got to pick a different job because most people don't make Navy SEAL. And I was like, well, what else you got? And yeah, they had really nothing cool that if I failed, I would be on. So knowing my past success rate with things, I was like, you know what? I'm going to head down and see what the Army can offer me. I was like, yeah, I want to be Special Forces, man. What can you do for me? They're like, man, we'll set you up on a contract. You'll go infantry. You'll go, Ranger, and then right after you'll go right into Special Forces training. As long as you stay on that path, you'll be Special Forces. And I was like, deal, sign me up, So, yeah, I finished high school and immediately left for the Army, did my MEPS and went down and did 30th AG. I signed up for infantry right off the bat, so I got to go to Fort Benning, home of the school for boys, And yeah, spent 2 weeks at 30th AG, and for you that have been to 30th AG, you know what great hell that is. We had a bunch of airborne hold kids going through at the time, and oh yeah, I was like, if this is how the Army is, I want out now. So, but again, finally I got to go downrange, and yeah, I think I was part of Charlie Rock down Sand Hill, and that's really where I seen like, man, just life changed for me. Again, I just kind of this little a-hole kid that really didn't know much discipline or leadership or anything like that, and it really got instilled into me there. From there, I immediately was like, I'm not going to make Special Forces. I knew this right in basic training. I was like, oh, this is going to be a long, hard journey. I was like, so I just immediately dropped my airborne contract because at the time, like, people were getting held about 2 months later after basic to go through airborne, again, because of these all these kids were in holdover because of reservists go through in the summer. So basically what happens is, kids, like, and that are juniors in high school go do their first part of basic training, go back for their last year of high school. Well, this had set all of us back because, again, this is 05, so we're in a time of war, and yeah, a lot of people were signing up at the time. Anyway, getting past that, I guess. So I dropped my airborne contract, which makes me needs of the Army, which, if you know anything, that's never a good plan. So I immediately get sent to Alaska, which is the 172nd Stryker Brigade. And yeah, they literally like were planning on deploying at this time. So I wrap up basic. I go home on leave for like 2 weeks. I get married at that time, and I head to Alaska. I get there, and my unit had just deployed like 2 weeks prior to that. So they're like, "Yo, don't even unpack your bags. Like, you literally are going to take a CLS class and a driver's training, and you should be out of here in about a week or two." So I got my old lady up there in that amount of time, like got a house set up and everything, no furniture or anything in it at all, and then took off straight for Iraq. I spent 16 months in Iraq. I did 12 in Mosul. I did the rest in Baghdad. Came back. I wrapped up my Army career in Alaska. We changed from the 172nd. Changed our name to, I don't even know, 258 or something like that. Then my time got up. I decided, hey, I'm going to get out again. I was already looking at another deployment, and my old lady was not having it. She had gotten pregnant at the time, and then, we ended up losing that kid. So, the whole time I was like, man, I'm just going to get out. I'm going to go make more money as a civilian because, you would add up hours and be like, dude, I can make $8 an hour, and I would be making twice as much money as I am right now with the amount of hours I work. Like, seriously, overtime alone would pay for itself. I'm out, And, I just had a bunch of buddies like PCS. Leadership was kind of changing at the time, so it was just a good time for me to get out, I felt like, and that's what I did. So I got out, and I ended up meeting up with a dude that was a vet just like me. He owned a construction company, hired me on as an iron worker. So I worked out of Chicago as an iron worker for a little bit. That company ended up shutting down. At that time, I lived in Rockford, was kind of ghetto, and I wanted to move out because my kid at this time was about 2 years old. So we moved up to Wisconsin because concealed carry was legal, and I felt like where the world was going. I don't know. I was kind of guilty of that prepper sense at that time too. Like I really felt like the world was going to a bad place, and I just wanted to have that means to protect myself and set myself up for success. So I moved up to Wisconsin. Picked up a welding job. I did that for about 6 months until, I got my concealed carry. Was looking into a holster. I seen a video on this company, a guy doing a review on a Force City Tactical holster at the time. And I emailed the guy to see if he needed help on the weekend since he was really local to me. And he asked me if I wanted to buy the company out from underneath him. And that's the rest is history basically, man, from there. I bought out the company and started this journey on actually, getting education. Shooting was kind of my hobby at that time, and I'm just one of those guys that when you're into something, you get into it like full bore, and I just started trying to educate myself on every single possible thing I could learn, and as you know, with firearms, there's just so much out there, and that's kind of what led me on this path.
So I'm going to do this real quick because I know Jesse's answer. Jeff? First handgun that you bought?
Oh, well, when I was 9 years old, I sat down. I should have been a lawyer, really, but that would be too stereotypical.
I think we lost Jeff. Well, hopefully Jeff will be back. Jesse, what was the first gun that you bought?
Ooh.
Oh.
Sorry. Just completely, it just left the thing.
You were clicking buttons again, weren't you?
No, I swear I wasn't clicking anything. My hands were I'm sitting on my hands right now. But so I was 9 years old. I had my mother and my father sit down, and I drew up a contract saying that when I turned 12 years old, my father would buy me a handgun, and I made my father sign it. I made my mother sign it as a witness. I don't even know where I got this idea, really. And then I put it in an envelope, put it in my desk drawer. Turned 12. Took it out. I was like, remember this? And they got my father went, and I remember the whole guns for the whole gun shop experience, which I'll spare you, but it was cool. It was actually a place called I forget the name of the place, but he actually got beaten to death and robbed. But that's
that's a whole nother story.
Yeah, it's a whole nother story. But I got a Taurus Model 94 9-shot 22 stainless steel 4-inch barrel adjustable sights. Subsequently, actually got rid of it. Just wasn't using it anymore and got something else instead. But I liked that gun. That was my gun. I cleaned it and I shot it, and that was my responsibility. And I'll tell you, it taught me quite a bit about responsibility, real, honest, personal responsibility, which, that's probably just a natural part of life in some parts of the country, but for a, suburbanite Jewish kid from again from the suburbs, it's like about as far from the norm as you can get.
That was a gat.
Yeah.
What was the first gun you actually bought on your own?
Come back to me. I got to think.
Okay. Jesse, what was the first gun that you bought? First handgun.
Only greatest handgun ever. It was a Springfield XD subcompact in .40 caliber, baby.
Hell yeah!
But now, see, we got to find out Jeff's, because I'm using this as a segue into my story, because I'm pretty sure I bought the worst gun ever. Unless, I mean, Jeff's gonna have to really scrape the bottom of the barrel to beat me.
I used my father's guns for so long. He'd buy a gun and then it was suddenly my gun. I think my first gun. Let's say handgun because that'll be a little easier. I think the first gun that I ever bought was either a Glock 26 or a Smith & Wesson 640. But I had been using my father's Sig 228 and his Glock 19. I basically jacked his Glock 19. Oh no, I'm not supposed to say that. That's probably a crime. He has let me borrow it because
he gifted it to me.
To his best knowledge, I am not otherwise forbidden from possessing that gun. So I've been borrowing it. It's on loan.
What was the first gun that you ever carried? Let's put it that way. Yes.
It was a Sig 228.
Okay. All right. So for those out there, and this was a running joke for a long time and still is.
Oh no.
The first gun that I ever bought.
No.
On my own. Why are you cringing?
Still got it.
Still got it.
What it is, and it's so bad.
It is a Smith & Wesson Sigma, and not like the new Sigmas that are kind of half decent-ish. I bought the old Sigmas, and of course, in .40 caliber because I might have to shoot a bear. If you have to shoot a bear, the counter guy told me, well, .40 is the way to go.
Yeah.
If you got to shoot a bear.
The counter guy, awe-inspiring counter people.
Yeah. But no, going back, I was born and raised in Emmett, Idaho, if anybody knows where that is. I was born and raised there for 17 years. I was raised on, I say the 3Gs, God, guns, and gold. But, just very regular Idaho life. If that does not sound more boring or put something. No, I was just raised on normal Idaho life. Everybody just falls asleep.
Potatoes.
Yeah, we had potatoes and sky. We had sky. But no, I just lived a regular life. And then, I ended up, my parents have divorced, I ended up living in South Dakota, and after high school I moved around just on my own for Kansas and back to South Dakota and Texas and all over. But yeah, I ended up meeting my wife here in Wisconsin 12 years ago. Been here ever since, or be longer than that. We've been married for 12 years. But it all kind of, I was raised around guns. I went hunting, went pheasant hunting, went duck hunting. I went deer, elk, and bear hunting. Never got a dang thing when I was growing up. But then, fast forward to, it was only, 2.5 years ago? 3 years ago? 2.5 years ago. 2.5 years ago I would have bought my first handgun. And the story behind that is we've done foster care now for, I want to say 5 or 6 years. And there was an issue of actually the son that we have adopted now. At the time, he was just foster care. And he, kid had a rough life being born. He's born addicted to drugs. And I would never wish a drug withdrawal baby on anybody because it's brutal to deal with. But anyway, so the way it works is biological mother gets visits and stuff. And she would come to our house and pick him up. Well, she had gotten a new boyfriend as opposed to the biological father, who was a dandy too. But the new boyfriend, anytime they incorporate a new person into these possible visits or whatever, they have to go through a background check. Well, through the background check, the new boyfriend had a felony weapons and drug charges together. And they approved him. And I was like, are you freaking kidding? Number one, how do you prove that? A guy has felony weapons and felony drug charges. You're mixing that in with a woman who has drug problems already. you're adding this dude to the situation. Like, how does that help? I mean, I was just like I went nuts at the county. But anyways, there's nothing I can do, of course. And I was like, well, I don't know what this dude's gonna do. As far as I know, he could be coming just to scope out my place to rob it. Who knows? I don't know what he's gonna do. I don't know if this dude's stable or not. So that was I went and bought a gun. Went to Gander Mountain, which is the worst place ever. And I'm pretty sure if Satan ran an outdoor store, like, it would be Gander Mountain. That's beside the point.
Just threw Satan in there with that.
I know, it's hardcore. I hate Gander Mountain. Never mind. I'm gonna live in the moment, Jeff.
Yes. Stay present. Just be.
So walked in. I was like, I need a gun for home defense. I also go out to Idaho, so at our camping area, I got to worry about bears and stuff. And he was like, well, this gun right here, man, it's 40. It's a whole lot of bullets. Can kill a bear if you need it to. And and at that point in time, I was and that's so many things too. Is when you get into this stuff, what's the difference? Most gun stores, what's the difference between this $200 gun and this $500 gun? Well, both of them go bang, and you're like, oh, okay, who's the sucker now? I'd only spent $200 on my gun. You guys are suckers for spending $500 on your gun.
That's what I call bargain shopping, baby.
Yeah. That signal was, I think it was $175 used, and I had like a $50 gift card, and so I spent like $125 on the gun.
And you got about that much worth of gun.
Yeah, and of course I went out and I bought the crappy like Nano Vault that's sitting up there, vault with the gun. And here's the thing too, is I did not know about this was right after Sandy Hook. So I bought this gun, I want to say like March. This would have been a little bit after my birthday, so it was like late March. It was kind of like my birthday present to myself too, and I didn't know about like the whole gun Armageddon thing that was going on after Sandy Hook. And the dude was like, he's like, you want to buy a box of ammo with the gun? And I was like, well, yeah. He's like, well, okay, well, all we have are these full metal jackets. He's like, I don't have any hollow points. At that time, I didn't know what the difference was. And then I was like, well, I get it. I'll buy bullets. I don't know. And he's like, well, I only got these. I'm like, well, if I shoot somebody, will it do the job? He's like, yeah, it's 40. I was like, okay. 40, man, apparently it can kill anything. Like,
yes, it can.
You going elephant hunting in Africa? Take a 40. You're good.
Mm-hmm.
And then bought that, came home, and then my wife was like, "Oh my God, you got a gun." Well, kids
lock
and all this weird stuff. Yeah, lock it up.
Bury it in the backyard.
Funny story. Is I was so happy to share this with my wife, and I was like, no, I got this gun safe, and it's got a key for it, but it's also got a push button pad. I freaking locked both sets of keys inside the vault with the gun. So like the first 2 weeks that I bought it, couldn't even get to it if I needed it to. I had to call the company that to send me new keys. So yeah.
Should have just used a screwdriver.
But you still had a gun.
You still had it. I would just throw the safe at them, and it's a 40, so it's heavy, so it would just kill them. So anyways, so I'm off to a great start on this self-defense journey. I'm really just
sounds like you were doing it right.
Yeah. Great comment from Tactical Fedora. 40 can kill a T-Rex. True story. I swear to God.
And they have.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, then I started jumping the whole YouTube thing, and just, God, I can't tell you how many hours of Nut and Fancy videos I watched, and, who else? Jeez, who's the, no, I just talked about him earlier, that did the High Point video.
Hickok 45.
Hickok 45. Yeah, I started watching all that stuff, started getting into shows. And then I was like, man, there's got to be more people out there like me that are just walking into this stuff, have no clue, because everybody out there that did shows and stuff was way more, advanced than me. I didn't know, and even when I thought I knew stuff, I didn't know anything, And so I was like, let's start this, and then hit up with Matt, and we started this, and you know, kind of moving on from it would be, you know, the whole goal of this show has always been, you know, take you along with my journey of whatever I learned, try to share it with you guys, and really try to foster. And here's the thing too, is I should have done a better job at fostering a community. I apologize for that, but you know, I want to be able to share information. I want to be able for people that have good information to give it to people who need that information, who want that information, and vice versa. And so that's really the whole goal, and that, I mean, that's why joining these guys on, they obviously, you know, Jesse has a ton of military experience. Jeff has went out there and trained. All of us have went out and trained even more. And so it's one of those things that where we really want to try to foster a learning environment and an environment, you know, to steal the line from Trek, ego-free zone. Emotions and ego have no place in guns, and self-defense and, you know, the type of things that we're into. And you know, share this with you, but have this open line of communication to where it's back and forth. It's not just us screaming at you, telling you it's this way, when in fact we can learn a lot from you guys. And so that's really what the you know, the goal has always been. Whether I've been good at it or not, you know, that's debatable. But that's really where I want to put the show, and that's, you know, I know there's got to be more people out there that hopefully will stumble across us that are just getting into the same journey as me. And I think all of us will agree, if we can just share the hurdles that we've ran through, and for you to avoid those, you'll just be so much better off. Because I can tell you, sometimes going through this whole ordeal, and you know, I'd never imagined the show would turn into something like this, is there's a lot of bad information out there, but there's a lot of things you have to do to learn. And I'm not saying that right. There's a lot of experiences that you have to go through to learn some things, and hopefully we can share those with you to maybe give you a little bit easier of a learning curve.
No, I think you're right there. I mean, because yeah, I kind of came at it from a little different of where, like, I thought, you know, with my combat background and everything, like, I was like this super badass, like, yeah, maybe I'm way better than all these, you know. And I was kind of like, I'm gonna see what instructors have that I don't have, and you know, then again, like, I think going into like our basic pistol class, it was like, oh, I'm so ready for like advanced car classes and all this, and then it was like you take a class like that, and it was like, oh my God, I know nothing, like, you know, and it was just such a humbling factor for me, and I feel like obviously. I mean, I have a bunch of friends and buddies, you know, that, again, they're all in that same mindset of like, I already know, like, this guy hasn't been there, he hasn't actually been in a gunfight, how's he going to teach me something? And then it's like you go and it's like, oh yeah, it has nothing to do, like, we got lucky, you know, like, bullets were flying at us and we just didn't really know how to respond. We got lucky in those situations. Like, these guys actually know how to run the gun, keep it up, keep it in the fight, and yeah, I mean, it just totally changed my entire mindset on training and what I thought I knew and where I thought I was at in this thing. And I think even now, with all the training that I have, I still don't look at it like I'm more advanced than I was, you know, then or any, you know, it's more, I am constantly striving to get better, and you constantly put yourself on a different par of people, you know? It's like who you compare yourself against. I think that's another big thing. It's like a lot of us are like, well, I'm the best shooter in my group of friends. It's like, well, that's great, you know, or I was the best shooter at this class. But I think if you start putting yourself against, like, well, how do I shoot compared to, yeah, like guys like Frank Proctor or Travis Haley, it's like, well, I'm nowhere close. But at one point you got to understand that they were at a point where you're at, you know, and what they did is they dedicated themselves to that craft and that learning that martial art, and they just, you know, brought it to the next level. And if, you know, I think all of us would want to be there someday. It's just, you know, putting in the work to get there, and yeah, trying to get other people to that point.
No, that's exactly it. And like I said, we've done a lot of changes over the past year, and I want to go over those here in a minute. But so jumping back to a few other things, with the changes in the show. We're going to be going down to Alliance Island, like I said, for the Steve Fisher Sentinel Concepts class, low light handgun, low light carbine, October 23rd and 24th, Friday and Saturday. We're also going to be down there a couple days before that and after it, filming an absolute ton of videos for you guys. So for everybody that's watching on YouTube, starting in November, expect an absolute ton of content. So your podcast listeners, you'll have to jump on board onto the YouTube stuff to get a lot of that. But also I'll bring a lot of those, and hopefully these guys will too, bring a lot of those products or reviews or whatever we discuss into some on targets as well. So check out Practically Tactical on Target. We'll bring some of that to you guys. And of course, we talked about earlier at the get together. If you're interested in that, just get a hold of me on social media, and we'll be sure to set that up. But yeah, so we're doing that whole filming and video stuff, and we have tons of big stuff on that. We'll come out with more later. But I want to jump into the Patreon stuff real quick here, and this might sum up maybe a little bit kind of what we've been talking about of, bad events happen to good people, and we want to try to prepare you one episode at a time. And that might not just be guns or concealed carry, or there's so many other aspects to this, like we've been, all three of us been talking about taking a Craig Douglas class. I've been sharing his videos on Facebook because you watch a Craig Douglas video and it's just like, oh my god,
I'm nervous.
Yeah. But there's so much more to this than this of what kind of gun you carry or what ammo you carry in your gun. There's just so much more to it. So we really want to expand the show into filling some of those voids as well. And Jeff has a ton of amazing contacts, like William April. I can't wait to get William April on the show because that dude is so cerebral. It's amazing. But we're going to branch out into a lot of other things that are all related into this area to really, if this is the word for it, Jeff, make people more complete.
Yeah. Well, it's also, not for nothing, but the viewers are going to get a lot for, if you contribute to Patreon, you'll get even more. But, every episode that we have these guests on, and I made a list of all the contacts I think would be a good fit for this show, you're going to get a lot of very, very good information that would typically cost a lot of money,
Yeah.
At least the contact list that I wrote up, those are relationships that I've forged over the past 11 years and sometimes more. So I can't wait to introduce you to some of these people. And by the way, William April, I'm sure, is on board. He's just a brilliant guy, and I'm sure that he'd be happy to do it to help spread a bunch of information about what goes into being a violent criminal actor. And his stuff is awesome. It just makes sense, and it's like that stuff like, wow, I wish I had thought of that, But you don't think of these things because we're not criminal.
Right. Yeah. So. Well, and this is a total off point, but this is something that, me and Jesse talked about too of, and I want to express this to everybody out there too of whether it be my show, whether you listen to somebody else's show, wherever another YouTube channel, whatever it might be, is always ask why. Whether it be a way that you manipulate a handgun on a reload, or use a weapon light, or some sort of tactic, or whatever it might be, ask why. Because it puts you down the path of trying to learn more or figure something out. And I think that's, if I could go back and do everything over again, there are a lot of things I'd do different, but it would be ask why. Why do people do this way? Why is this important? And I think if you start off doing that, sorry, it's a complete random subject, it's going to help you a lot. Start questioning everything. Not necessarily because it's not bad. It's nothing bad to question it. If we say something here and you're like, that sounds like bullshit, there's nothing wrong with it. Ask why. Maybe we can explain it, maybe not. It doesn't matter. Like, me and Jesse have a video coming out here shortly of single point, just talking comparison of single point versus 2 point. We prefer 2 point slings. But hey, if you rock a 1 point and you can run it, God bless you.
No, I can't stand single point slings. For myself, it's like I know a lot of people, or I used to, know some people that would run them, but I just always feel like my muzzle's dragging them. I can't stand them. As soon as you kneel and you gotta sling it and work on medical stuff, it's just, I hate them.
Yeah, we're in the same boat, but that video will come out later. But sorry, back to. See, there's just so much to hit on, and it's hard to do. But sorry. So yeah, back to the Patreon. There's so much to talk about. I'm so excited. I can't tell you guys how excited I am to have these guys join the show, because they have a whole lot of knowledge to share, and that's what I'm, again, really excited about to do. So back to the Patreon thing. If you guys feel like supporting the show, we have just a pledge of $1 per show. You get some stickers. We're going to have some exclusive Q&A stuff. We're actually going to add your name to the website. So as a full-blown supporter of the Practically Tactical. And then you're also going to access to a bunch of product / services discount codes for you guys if you're out there. So then we have a $3 per episode. You're obviously going to get sticker. You're going to get all the same stuff from before, but you're also going to get, check this out, a double cryptic Practically Tactical logo sticker. Double cryptic. Is your mind blown right now, Jeff?
Yeah, I don't even know what Cryptek is.
I knew you would say that. Then of course you get to access Q&A stuff, all behind the scenes stuff, access product discount codes. You get all that stuff. But also at the $3 level and more, once a month we're going to be uploading an only Patreon video. So as Jeff talked about with doing videos specifically for those that support the show, that's where it's going to be at. There could be even more than one. I bet there's going to be more than one, but at least one per month for you guys. And then we have the $5 per episode. So you get all the stuff we talked about before. But when we release our patch that we're working on, you automatically get it for free. And then, of course, anytime we go to NRA Show or SHOT Show, you're going to get some swag stuff and all that type of stuff. So that's all in there. But you also get access to all of our content for free. So whether that be videos, podcasts, whatever it might be, you guys get access to it before it is released. Then, of course, we have the $7 per episode. You get everything we've said on here. But you also get to join us for a once-a-month private hangout that we're going to be doing. And there'll probably be some mystery special guests joining us as well. You're going to be getting a holster from Force City Tactical. And then this is one where if Jeff cusses more than 5 times one episode, Jeff will send you a written, personalized letter explaining why he needed to cuss. We make no promises about the legibility of the letter, although he claims to have excellent cursive.
I do.
Questionable and or offensive material might be included in that letter. Buy and open at your own risk. So that's it for now. We're still working on those, but again, if you guys got any feedback on the Patreon stuff, please let us know. Get a hold of us in anything that you guys think that we're missing. Please let me know. Again, we want to customize this to where, one, you can help us build this show into something better, but at the same time, we are giving you more than what you guys are helping support the show with. So again, any feedback, anything like that, please hit us up and let us know. But that's the Patreon, and the goal of this, again, is to help us grow the show, make it better. More audio equipment, more video equipment, stuff that we can really try to bring better content to you guys, whether it be on YouTube or podcasts. So for everybody out there, I appreciate your guys' support. I know a bunch of you guys out there have supported the show a long ways. All the 20-something people out in chat right now. Again, awesome. Thank you much for supporting us. And again, even if you guys can't support on Patreon, no problem at all. Again, we still want your feedback here, so send it to us. But I think that brings us to just about the last point, and I'm sure this is going to kind of go somewhere, but the last year has been a lot of changes. For those that have been with the show for a while, the show has changed immensely over the past year, even less than that. Going from asking Will Petty about verbal commands when facing 10 people. Oh, you're laughing on the inside, Jesse.
No. Whose gun line is it anyway?
2, where we are now, and there's just been so many changes, and a lot of that, we got to thank, Trek from MDFI, Steve from Sentinel Concepts. And again, too, a lot of that is just getting out and training, putting yourself out there. But what we kind of want to do is talk about changes over the past year. I've had a ton of changes. Jesse's had a ton of changes. And I'm sure Jeff has had a ton of changes. He might have even dyed his hair. I'm not sure on that.
What?
That's not true?
Sacrilegious right there.
Oh.
No, man, I'm embracing the gray.
Oh.
Embrace the gray and embrace the gay. Hey, what kind of show is that?
But let's maybe go to you first, Jeff, because obviously you're not on the show every week, so people can't track anything you've done and changed. But when you look at the past year, whatever it might be, what are some changes that you've personally done, whether it be gun-wise or mentally, or how you approach problems, whatever it might be?
Well, the first thing is that I've really kind of rededicated myself to training. Um, with martial arts, with jiu-jitsu, with kickboxing, with Muay Thai, and in doing so, and again reading this different literature and stuff about how to stay present, and this again the creative visualization, meditation stuff, I feel a lot calmer, believe it or not, and a lot more still in my mind, so that I can actually focus and concentrate on stuff, and started to love and really appreciate the nuances of, let's say, jiu-jitsu. And I don't claim to be a master of anything. I refuse to. But the fact that just moving your hips 1 inch to the left or right from where you are can change the entire dynamic. And can put you from a position where you've been mounted to a position when now you're in their guard. Etc. It's just fascinating, and so I kind of just rededicated myself to that, and I'm very, very happy with that. Also, stopped drinking, and that really helped with just clarity of mind and stuff like that. And just kind of on a whole new journey, and this came at the perfect time. The whole reinvention and development, really, of Practically Tactical into something that's going to be, really extremely popular. So I'd say those are the two biggest changes. Yeah.
Okay. Jesse, I'll go to you. Obviously, you have trained a lot the past year. A lot of changes. You have a far more better, if that's the right term, firearms background than I do. But even with that, you've had a ton of changes, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think, the biggest thing for me is I was guilty of, fantasy band camping everything. I would always try to come up with situations and gear and stuff that I would need, and, I would think with decisions a lot financially first a lot of times, so it was always shopping for that deal, that $50 aim point or whatever it was out there, because it wasn't needing to really fit that combat role, So it was, I think that was a big thing for me, is I really got outside of that fantasy band camp. And, started actually getting education and started kind of challenging what I thought I knew, And I think that was the biggest changing factor for me, was getting out there and being humbled so much that it was man, you need to take it back to square one and start from there, and kind of progress on that path the slow and right way, And I think, that's just been the biggest changing factor for me, is getting away from the gear aspect so much and getting into actually running, the gun. And not only that, but like you said, there's so much, the shooting aspects, the bottom of the barrel of it. There's so much more into the problem-solving arena and getting in there and figuring out, how to deal with the situation, because like Jeff was just saying, shifting your hips 1 inch to the left can change things. Well, it's the same with every situation. A piece of furniture here could change the whole situation, or a good guy in the room compared to just bad guys. So it's getting your brain thinking in those times and cutting that learning curve that you have. So I think that's really just been the biggest thing, is educating myself and continuing along that path.
I think that's really cool, Jesse, and I think that it's very cool. It shows that you're humble, and I think it's awesome that, especially given your combat experiences and stuff, that you're willing to say that stuff. So I want to applaud you for that. That's real cool, man.
I hope it helps others out there. That's what I said. It's just it's hard. We're all A-type personalities. We all want to be the best, but yeah, I think in order to be the best, you have to kind of take that student approach at it and say, who's out there doing it better than you now, and what can you take away from them? Because, again, we're all just a little bit different. What works for you might not work for me as much, but if you can ask why and kind of get articulated on why we're doing what we're doing, and, again, I think people use the military a lot, and I think that's a lot of credibility factor. And, again, for myself, it was, too, is well, this guy used to be Special Forces. He obviously has to know what he's talking about. And it's yes and no. I mean, you're talking two different team tactics. Like these guys are dealing with a group of guys. You're dealing with yourself in a lot of these situations. They're dealing with 6 other individuals that know the drill. You're talking about you might have your wife and kid there. So you're learning on two different planes, and I think you really can't put one with the other without, again, coming back and saying, hey, there's more learning to be done here. So.
Well, again, that really kind of goes back to the mantra of why I'm having these guys join the show is continuing this learning path, being a student, but sharing information. Like the story in the news today, for those that aren't familiar, go anywhere and it's all over the internet. This woman, was it in Michigan? Let me double check this here. Yeah, Auburn Hills, Michigan. There was a robbery at a Home Depot. Apparently people steal wood. I don't know. Runs out. He steals something. There's the security guys running after him. He jumps into a waiting car, drives off. A CPL holder in Michigan opens fire on the car.
In case you're wondering, don't do that.
Don't do that, yeah.
And I put this on my face on our Practically Tactical Facebook page, and I said, file this under the person that says, well, I took training, I took my CPL class. And it's just like, no. Jesse, how was your wife's concealed carry class in Wisconsin?
Oh, it was a joke, again. I mean, we went over, this is a semi-auto, this is a revolver, yeah, it was basically a selling point for slimline guns, slimline Tauruses there, I would say.
Oh.
Again, no education, yeah, and again, that's what people, they always fight on. I mean, I have, a lot of women, because they know my wife carries, so a lot of women will get on my Facebook, and hit me up from the high school area, and be asking questions, and again, it's just like, you're so early on this path, and it's like, oh, I want to send you somewhere. I want to be like, hey, go watch these 10 videos from this person. But there's not really that person that's out there. So I think that's where, again, we're really trying to fill that role and be able to, hey, go watch this. And, these guys are credible. These guys are showing good information. And, I think that's a big thing for the beginning path of concealed carry because, they don't tell you how to conceal carry or things that you should do there. That's just a broad overview of the 4 life safety rules, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean the goal is we gotta fight that bad information out there, and not do it in a way that we put people down, but it's more of, hey, you need to look into this. Hey, go look into this, because again, it doesn't matter what we talk about on the show. It doesn't matter what we talk about here, Jeff. If you as the person are not willing to be, and you have it on this here on your course requirements for this, come with an open mind. If you carry a gun every single day, or you have even a gun at home, if your mind is not open to new ideas and new information, and you're not pursuing it, we can only meet you halfway on this. If we give information, you got to meet us halfway and accept it and do your own research. But to be a better person, you have to be on that lines. You have to be searching information and be open to new information, right?
Yeah. Have an open mind, be a willingness to learn, be teachable in life. It's not just this. Be teachable.
Yeah. I mean, I just can't imagine everybody like, I'm gonna open fire on some guy driving away.
You know what?
That I was not involved in. Like,
I guarantee you, she saw that in every cop movie, which it looks like fun.
Oh.
It's like all the cops are like bang, 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 and the car drives by, and there's never any citizens hit except in The Way of the Gun. Great movie. But it's like, well, sure, why not shoot at the car? Well, because it's real life now, and we're not, there's no Hollywood person saying, all right, cut, let's do it again.
That was a perfect director's accent, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
But, and it's to move away from that type of thing. And again, all of us, probably not Jeff. Jeff's just born smart. Probably guilty of the same way of thinking. I got this. I know this. I done. And it's not. There's always something. There's always, number one, there's always going to be someone better than you. Get that in right now. There's always going to be someone that's better than you. But it's, again, being open, being smart, and that's, and spreading good information. That's the goal of the show. So we're going to have a lot more things coming to you guys of different changes, different stuff. Again, I'm going to have all the links to all these guys' social media in the show notes, and for those watching on YouTube, it's down below. But, at the end of the day, our goal is just to bring you guys good information. That's the whole goal. And hopefully you guys can help support us. Hopefully we can keep growing the show into something that, maybe we can start doing more shows or, different travel locations or, there's a ton of possibilities. Who knows what this will bring. But at the end of the day, we want to bring good information to you guys, and that's it.
No, and yeah, we want you guys to be more involved as well. We want to be able to conversate, chat with you, because again, how much information have we taken away from after classes of just getting to hang out with Trek and Steve? And I think when you're in that more comfortable personal, role and not being online, it's a little bit easier. So yeah, I look forward to get talking with more of you guys and seeing where you're at, the questions you're having, because again, it's one of those things, if you don't look at it that way, you might have never thought to ask that question. And I mean, Trek will tell you straight up, he's changed classes on the fly just because students have come in and said, well, hey, what about this? And he's like, man, I've never thought about that. And that's a big thing that you're not going to find through doctrine training like the military and stuff, is they can't change stuff like that on the fly, and they can't say, hey, this is working right now, I seen this work for this guy, or it's just, again, different environment. So I'm excited to to really have everyone else be involved, because again, I think it's good. Get the people out there involved in it.
That's right. So again, we'll have more information coming out. Stay tuned to the YouTube channel, to social media, and again, check out the Patreon. Patreon.com/practicallytactical. That'll be, I'm sure, ever-changing and evolving as it goes on. But I'm going to move to wrap it up here. A couple more little points. But, Jeff, I'm going to go to you. Any last wrap-up or anything I may have missed that we need to discuss about on this show?
I don't think so. I think this is a good primer for what's coming. We just got a lot of really good stuff coming. That's one of the reasons that another reason that I signed on was it's a good strategy going forward. The thing that makes I think our lives happiest is viewer involvement. Asking questions, getting involved. You're never going to get somebody on the show saying you're stupid, because I can guarantee you that I've asked that same question at some point over my career as a student, which is never ending. And I would really, implore people to get involved and donate. Donate on Patreon. If you can do $1 every episode, that helps us. A lot with all that stuff. And I guarantee you're going to get a lot of. It's going to be a pride of ownership thing, because you're no longer just a viewer or just a listener, which is obviously greatly appreciated, but somebody that's involved. It's like kind of like buying stock in something. Now you partly own the company, kind of.
That's actually a good way to put it.
And I think that's about as cool as it gets. So no, that's all I got to say. Really looking forward to the stuff we got coming out. Come to Alliance, Ohio, because that's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
Sure.
And again, for you guys interested, we're gonna try to put together a listener get together. We'll put out information on the social media, and I'll probably drop a video on that as well. But if you're in there, get a hold of me, and we'll definitely try to put that together. But yeah, I think that's all I got. Again, I'm really excited for the coming shows, and again, we're gonna have special guests where we'll have some just discussions. Again, we want your guys' feedback. If you have a question, or if you want something discussed, or if you have a news article, or hey, this situation happened, what do you guys think? Send that to us. We really want to incorporate what is important to you guys, because again, we could be missing a lot of stuff that's not necessarily important to us, but so many people out there could be important to. Sometimes you can't see the forest through the trees, or is it the trees through the forest? Whichever way you look through a forest and trees, we want to get how you look at it.
Yeah, we want the trees to be where they should be, and you to be able to see past all those things that are distracting you, so you can really see all the forests.
Definitely.
Yep.
Yep, that's a good
all
way to
those trees and forests and beautiful little crickets and frogs.
Yeah. So, we want everyone to remember that we are just a piece of a giant puzzle. So please go check out This Week in Guns podcast here on the Firearms Radio Network. And be sure to check out all the other shows here on the Firearms Radio Network by visiting firearmsradio.tv/iTunes. That was a good line, wasn't it? That was a good line. I wrote that.
Ooh, I've got a good quote we can leave on right here. You just let me know when we're ready.
Okay. We'll do that. Of course, we really want your feedback here at Practically Tactical, so please start emailing. I don't have email set up for these guys yet, but we will. So send any compliments, feedback, guest suggestions to nick@practicallytactical.com. The Nick at Firearms Radio TV still works, but again, we're combining all of our sites, so Nick at Practically Tactical. These guys, I'll be getting emails up so you guys can reach them for any show stuff. Also, please give us a review on iTunes. I can't express enough how much one iTunes review helps us out in the rankings. Also, find us on Facebook by searching practicallytactical.com or just go to facebook.com/practicallytactical. Check out Arm Dynamics. Check out 4C Tactical. And we need throw a champagne bottle or something
Christen it.
Yeah, for this episode. But I don't have any champagne. Do you, Jeff? Oh, you're not drinking anymore, so never mind.
Yeah, I'm boring.
Sparkling cider.
But Jesse, I won't use my regular closing line. What's the closing line that you have?
All right, this one comes from Ron Avery, and it's practice without training perfects doing it wrong.
Oh, snap.
We need an emoticon that can go over podcast. Because Jeff likes those.
Emoticons.
Yes, you do. But as always, guys and gals, I thank you for tuning in. I thank you for listening to us, as we greatly appreciate it. And we'll catch you next week for another episode of Practically Tactical.